Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. Today, I am really excited to have my guest on, Ken Lloyd, and you're going to find out why I'm excited about this when we start talking. But just a couple of announcements first. If you have not had the chance to grab my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, make sure you do so at mysticmanta.com or drlisajthompson.com. And what that does is it puts you on my email list. And I have some big changes coming up on my business. And so if you're on that email list, you will be notified. I have a really, really cool new free gift that I'm getting ready to share with the world that I want you to be able to take advantage of. So again, go to mysticmanta.com and get that galactic journey, even if you've already done so. And also, if you are coming to Hawaii, specifically to the Big Island, then come see me on one of my Big Island UFO tours, where you will see the night sky in a whole new way using my advanced Generation 3 military night vision goggles. For more information on that, go to bigislandUFOtours.com. And without further ado, we're going to bring Ken onto the stage. Hello, Ken.
Hi.
Okay, well, let me read your bio. And again, we're just meeting for the first time, and I am so excited to
Yes.
see what you have to share with me.
Thanks for being on the show. Absolutely.
Yeah. Ken Lloyd is an energy field architect and healer who, after a profound near-death experience, integrated 22 soul aspects from his higher self and oversoul collective into his physical being. This union allows him to channel higher frequencies and transmit powerful ascension and healing codes to humanity using light language that is conveyed from his collective. Ken and his team work with the intricate layers of a person's energy system to design and harmonize the flow of energy within and around the body. By attuning to each individual's unique vibrational blueprint, he identifies imbalances, stagnations, or disruptions in the energy field and activates them to expand and align to their fullest potential. His sessions are known for facilitating rapid emotional, physical, and spiritual healing, helping individuals elevate their frequency and align with the harmonious vibrations. Well, I'm looking forward to this. So let's jump into the very first question I always ask everyone. I would love to know how you grew up, spiritual, religious, something else, so we understand how you got onto this path.
Blue collar poverty. So there's no religion. I've had no spiritual background. I've got no education, no experience in any of that. Right. I think I may have gone to church once or twice through my life. That was it. When everything occurred to me, it was in 2018. I had what I call the atypical near-death experience. So at that time, it was my third cybersecurity company. So I'm a self-taught cybersecurity guy, right? I'm as logical as you could possibly get. If it wasn't binary code, it wasn't real. So this is kind of the stage. In the third company, it was very, very stressful. And I was diagnosed with a pituitary tumor, which ironically, when they did the biopsy, it was a cortisol tumor wrapped in a cortisol cyst. Total stress, right?
Okay.
So fast forward 2018, I am angry with my business partner, right? It was a very angry time in my life. It was, the acquisition was happening. The deal was being done in the way that I wasn't transparent, you name it, right? Long hours, a lot of energy drinks.
Okay.
Right? A lot of energy drinks, bad news. And tied that with ADHD focused medicine, right? And then my employees were in Israel, Bulgaria, California, they're all over the world. So again, very stressful time. And I don't remember the exact date and I don't remember what was said to me, but I got triggered, which I learned that term later on. I didn't know what that was. And I'm like, I just need to go lay down. I'm so angry. And I laid down in the bed and immediately my back arched up. So my stomach was in the air and I was locked in position like somebody had plugged in an electrical outlet to me, like I couldn't move. And it didn't last that long. It was 2 minutes. But I felt something coming out of my abdomen energetically, right?
Okay.
And it was just enough that when I woke up the next day, I'm like, I was peaceful, which was very unusual. Like, what just happened? And I then began furiously Googling everything I could about energy in the body and so on and so forth. But to talk about that moment, I didn't have the epiphany, right? I didn't, if you can imagine the tunnel opening up and people, seeing their bodies and floating over, that's not what happened to me at all. It's as if the tunnel opened and one soul aspect came in through the tunnel to this side and then put himself in my field. And he was the one that removed all of my trauma. So I kind of have like a little cheat code. So
Okay.
they removed all the trauma out of my physical body at that point in my life. And we've all have our own trauma. So I was full of it, I'm sure. But I still had to deal with life trauma. So don't get me wrong. I still had to deal with the life issues. I still need to go through the acquisition. But that day, the next day, it was like, what is spirituality? What is consciousness? What is the aura? And as I'm doing this, I'm learning about, people have gifts. What are gifts? Like, I think I went to a psychic once at the local fair when I was younger. So none of that made any sense to me. But if you're a business person and you're beginning your startup, you spend every waking moment working the business, right? Especially in the beginning, like you just don't stop. And this is what was happening to me. I lost focus of the company, and all my free time was on this. And I say systemically, I can't get the word. My vocabulary is kind of minimal. They began removing the desire to write code.
Interesting.
They shut off my computer skills. And ironically, I had to go work for the company that was acquiring us for 4 years. And I'm like, I have no passion.
Yeah.
I unsubscribed from all the computer articles, so on and so forth. So they began changing everything that was important and focusing to me. But as I'm reading these books, I'm looking at the list, like I want this, I want this, I want this. And let me tell you, that's not how it works. It shows up as it shows up. I took Reiki, right? And I could start feeling energies, which was really interesting. And I don't know why I did it, right? And the books I'm reading, I began reading the books about healing, the energetic healing. And, I'm practicing with friends and family, and they're all like, yeah, something's happening. I'm like, okay, sure. Right. Like, it was just absolutely no confidence. And then I went ahead and I hired someone to show me what is multidimensionality, right? A multidimensional coach, if you will.
Okay.
And because I got tired of reading. I'm like, I'm done with the reading. I just need someone to show me what I need to do in order to satisfy whatever this urge was. So the first 6 months was learning how to detox the body, right? The heavy metal detox was the most transformational detox I did. I did it for 6 months. I had all the metal in the mouth removed, child of the 80s, right? All the Mountain
Same.
Dew. Yeah, right. So I had all that metal removed, and all of a sudden I'm feeling energy. And I'm thinking, oh yeah, it's on. So she was taking me into, go to Mars, go to the middle of Mars, and I'm doing all of these things without effort. And I could hear on the other end of the phone as we went through these sessions a little bit of awe, right? Like, this guy's really, because she's seeing the same thing, of course, right? And again, at this time, I'm thinking, all right, well, we're going to just give you some, there's that confidence thing. Like, is she really just telling me these things?
Yeah.
So one of the other pivotal moments that in my journey is I took a modality, right? I went ahead, I'm like, I'm going to sign up for this healing course. I want to see what this is all about. And I was doing all the exercises, and I went through and did all the 25 sessions, and it was a breeze. I couldn't understand what was happening. Now, for the record, I don't do modalities.
Okay.
None. I don't have a modality. I don't read anything. My team has turned off everything: newsletters, YouTubes, podcasts, channelings from others. I am as bland as whatever you want to call it. I have no external influences to anything I do.
Okay. So that's what we call being a very clear channel, right?
Okay. Yeah. And everyone, I don't know what I'm going to do with somebody until I'm literally three minutes into the conversation, and then poof, they show me. So when we talk about the near death, and we talk about that one that came over, that wasn't the last one.
Okay, right, because you have 22 soul aspects.
There's so many, right? And they came in at pivotal times. So April 1st, 2023, I'm sitting in front of a lady doing a session on me, and 12 more come in. Right. And she's describing this as a crystal this and all of this. And I'm like, okay, this is great. I didn't feel it because I didn't know when these were coming into my field. And I certainly didn't know why.
I have a question. So
Yeah.
is she the one that was telling you that they were coming in?
She was the one that facilitated that session that came in. Right. And in reality, it could have been anybody. It's like when it's time, it's time.
Okay.
And they just put someone in front of you. So yeah, she was telling me about this. But the next biggest thing was later that year. It was December 12th. So 12/12/23. And I get this little nudge in the ear, go meditate. And that's unusual because I don't meditate. Like don't look to me for any spiritual practices. I couldn't tell you how to do a ceremony or a proper meditation. It's just the way this is with me. So I jump into the closet, which was the quietest place in the house, and I immediately sit down and I'm frozen in position. As I say, I couldn't itch and I couldn't twitch. And I just felt this intense energy coming down through the crown, filling the body. And now I'm asking questions.
Mm.
What is going on? And I'm starting to rapid fire these questions in my mind. And I get the simple message, we're a little busy right now. We'll talk to you shortly. And it was like this feverish, like the word busy. And what had happened that day was my higher self stepped into the physical body.
Okay.
And that was the game changer. So my body over the past 7 years and about 2 years into it began the tingles. You know, those tingles when you meet somebody to do work on you and you just kind of get that thing. Well, this was
Yeah.
all the time. And it was just gentle to begin with. It was inside of the bones and I could feel it. And what was happening is that soul aspect that came over began changing the physical body to prepare it for even more energies to come into the field.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're reading the book, as we talked a moment ago, Sheila Seppi's Walking Cosmology of the Souls, one of the things that happen to walk-ins is they immediately go through a removal of everything in their life. They'll go through the divorce, right? They'll get rid of everything. They're just a whole new person. That didn't happen to me initially.
Okay.
Right? So I never left per se. Now, at this point in time, as we're on this recording, there's 11% of Ken still here. But
Okay.
there's whole aspects of me that no longer needed this mission or this journey, this experience. It's like, hey, good luck. We're out of here. And I did that in the most loving kind of way because they're still me. So 3 weeks after he stepped in, they're like, now you're getting a divorce. I'm like, what? 17 years, beautiful marriage. It wasn't like I had this trauma going on.
Yeah.
But what I learned was as we move through our journey, our frequency rises.
Right.
And those that are around us, either they rise or they fall away. It's just a normal process. So I asked for a divorce. And as an entrepreneur, successfully, I had a lot of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Put the house up for sale, sold the 5 cars, sold everything, right? And I was in Mexico by March with 3 suitcases.
Wow. Okay. And that was March of 24?
Yeah, that was March. It was so almost exactly a year ago.
Yeah, there we go. So,
And so much has changed.
So one thing I just want to say, interestingly, because most of my longtime viewers know this about me, but you are very correct in when you say that when you start raising your frequency, people fall away. And that has happened in my life over the last few years, but especially, so September of 23, my husband, who, we had this beautiful relationship, but he committed suicide out of the blue.
Wow.
And the next morning I was talking, with my team and I'm like, did it really have to be that dramatic?
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah, it did, for you to fully be in your correct timeline that you're supposed to be here on your mission.
Yeah, it's crazy how the universe will make things happen. And for me, I can kick and I can scream and I do argue with them, right? I'm like, do I really? Are you serious? Do I? And so March began my isolation.
Okay.
From everybody. So I ended up in Jalapa, Mexico for a month which if you don't know much about Jalapa, there's no cars. It's horses, donkeys, and four-wheelers.
Okay.
You
Which
get
part
there
of
and
Mexico was that even in?
Puerto Vallarta.
Okay.
So 45-minute boat ride from Puerto Vallarta, right? So very calm, very, very peaceful, and a very spiritual place as well. So I was there for 30 days where 9 more came into the field. Now, again, I didn't know they were stepping into my field. And I didn't have a lot of conversations with them. And this is one of my big struggles. Talk to me, help me know, understand what's going on. And I tell you, every psychic needs a psychic.
Yes.
Every healer needs a healer.
Yeah.
So we all have our little friends on speed dial. What's going on? Tell me, right? Because
Exactly.
we get this intuition, but sometimes it seems so grand and it seems so far out there. You're like, man, is this my ego? Am I making this up? You know, what's happening here? So I had those friends to ground me. But so Yalapa, 9 more came in and still a lot of integration. And then I ended up in Tulum, Mexico in July. Tulum was the game changer.
Okay.
So I'm there for 10 days and I get this message. Ken, you're going to go do Cambo and Bufo. I don't like plant medicines because I always feel like I'm out of control. Right? I'm just not that guy. But one of the benefits of that near-death experience, when they pulled that trauma out, they removed fear.
Okay.
So it doesn't matter what I'm doing up there when I'm doing my work. I have no fear. I can get in front of an audience of hundreds of people and I have no stage fright, no anxiety. It is the most beautiful thing because I'm the world's biggest introvert.
Okay.
That was me. In fact, Facebook came up with a post in the other day. 6 years ago, you posted this. It said something, introverts unite alone and in separate rooms, something like that. And this was who I was then. So I get ready to do the Cambo. And for those of you who wanted to know, Cambo is a frog poison. They kind of burn the little things on your arm and they apply the paste or the poison to it, whatever that is. And that causes you to purge after you drink 2 liters of water. But the purging is the opening up of the cells in the body. All right. And the full detox of it. And at this point, I was a vegan and all these things. So I had done that and went beautiful. In fact, I wasn't even sure why I was doing it.
Okay.
2 hours later, they're like, now you're doing the Bufo. And apparently this isn't supposed to be done the same day. That's what I'm told. I don't hope never have to do it again. It was the most amazing experience though.
Okay.
So,
Tell me.
Bufo is the toad poison. It's the DMT. And if you read about it, they call it the God molecule. They say this is the DMT that's released on birth and on death. And they say the Bufo journey is one where the ego is walked out. The ego death is what they call this. And that's what happened. He's still here. He came back. But I could see it was about a 15-minute journey, maybe a 25-minute journey as you were coming out of this. But as soon as you inhale the DMT, everything turns to fractals. And it is so bright. Your eyes are closed and you still want to wear sunglasses. It's so intense. I don't know what happened to me for those 10 minutes. But I know that when I came through or began coming through, I was in the big tent, it was in Tulum, there's all this, and I could see the 22 around me. And they were shards of light, fuzzy. But the one to my right looked as 3D solid as you could ever believe. And I opened my eyes and I'm looking at him. Right. And I close my eyes and I do this thing and I'm looking at him again. And he told me that, I will have that ability to see these things now. And I do. Right. Which is really interesting. Now, remember, this is 7 months ago.
Right.
What they did at that time is as the cellular structure was opened, they who were in my field merged into the physical body. I became what is known as a soul infusion.
Okay.
So me, I'm infused with other soul aspects of the 22. And I still don't quite understand why. Like I'm still trying to understand the configuration and why all this is happening, but everything is beginning to shift even more with what I'm delivering. So imagine being able to sit in front of a client and no matter what they're presenting to you, you know what to do.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter if it's a physical healing It doesn't matter if I'm connecting them to their guides, their team. I'm talking to their teams, and I'm having conversations with their ego. I'm having conversations with the heart. All of these things, right? And it is so phenomenal. At that point in the tent, they told me, everything you have done was nothing but the sniff of the aroma of what was coming. Now, I was already doing what I call miracles at the time. And for your audience, let's just define a miracle. It is something positive happening without a logical explanation. So it's not a religious term. It is just, oh my gosh, my arm hurt and now it doesn't. And
Yeah.
these are happening within seconds, within moments. And I'm able to look inside of someone, and I don't see it like a doctor. I'm not a doctor. I don't know anything about medicine. But I can see how many ancestors are attached to perhaps a shoulder, what childhood trauma, the past lives. I'm able to make sure your contracts are clear. And it's boom, 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 boom. It takes seconds to remove all the ancestors that are associated with a condition. And it's so amazing to be able to see the shift in people, right?
Yeah.
So I mean, that's kind of what's happening. There are more and more things happening to me. So what they tell me is the idea that most people on their spiritual journey, it's kind of like a staircase, right? We hit a moment, and then we have we'll just use the term up level for a moment. We have our up level, right? Our epiphany, our next gift, our next thing in our life. And then we plateau for, I say, a day, a week, a month, a year, for 10 years.
Yeah.
And then we find that next and we go up. And the way they explained it is, I'm on an elevator that doesn't stop for the rest of my life.
Oh, wow.
It just keeps going and going. And literally every week or two, there's something new happening. So I'm going to pause there.
Well, okay. So yeah, so that, I mean, let's back up just a moment, because your wife that you ended up divorcing, and I mean, it was out of the blue for her, right? And you.
Mm-hmm.
And did you have children?
We do. We have a 19-year-old daughter.
Okay. And
So
so, yeah, so tell me what that experience was like with your daughter too.
the daughter seems to be okay.
Okay.
Like, she understands dad the best a 19-year-old can.
Yeah, I have an 18-and-a-half-year-old myself.
Yeah. But at the same time, she's also like, I don't want to be like dad.
Okay.
Like, what happened to me has kind of made her a little timid to the idea of spirituality. She's like, I don't want to leave, dad. I don't want to walk out, or, whatever these things are that were happening. So I kind of keep reassuring her, listen, what happened to me has nothing to do with you.
Yeah.
Right. And so, but now the wife, devastated,
Okay.
destroyed. Right.
Yeah.
And it was interesting that I was able to move through this divorce process without incurring any trauma. No arguments, no anger. You know how easy it is in those situations to create a reason to do it.
Yeah.
You're not whatever these things are. And that never happened.
Yeah.
At all. Right. And so why I didn't take on any trauma, she doesn't have any spirituality background, any way to heal. And now even the idea of her going to a healer, whoever, not me, also terrifies her.
Okay.
Right. So, as I keep talking about shifts, and it's interesting we're doing this video because I'm in the middle of a shift right now.
Okay.
So what has taken place with me over the past 3 weeks is, according to my good friends, they have removed, we'll say replaced, all the chakras and all the energy fields, the holographic template or blueprint, and then the human blueprint of the body over the past 3 weeks. I woke up on Wednesday morning. I guess it was a full moon. Like, I don't do the astrology thing. Like, I don't follow it, but apparently I'm part of it. We all are. and I woke up and I wasn't able to animate my body. I was void of all emotions. So as they're moving these energy fields out and bringing the new ones in, they're reconnecting or reconstructing all of this. And that went on for a few days. I mean, I could animate after a little while, but the amount of energy in the crown, it was like a circle going across the eyebrows, across the ears. And it was like my crown was straight up.
Okay.
The intensity of that energy, at one point, I swear I could feel bubbling under the skin. incredibly tense. And now they're like, listen, we have this planetary alignment tonight and tomorrow. This is when the integration's complete, right? So
Okay.
again, they keep doing more and more and keep moving up my frequencies. The reason they do this is because the physical body for me holds these frequencies. And as I show up in person
Mm-hmm.
those events, people in the audience are feeling it as I'm walking through and as I'm doing the work. My field holds all of those healing codes.
Right.
So they keep bumping me up for my mission. So my mission is millions and millions of people. Like, they're not messing around. And it's ironic that in the computer industry, I served millions and millions of people, and I created methods to do this in an automatic way. And even what they're doing now is they're setting me up to reach millions of people without having a million one-on-one sessions, right?
Right.
Which isn't scalable.
Yeah. Well, so okay, so you're saying that your live events, but everything is connected,
It
and
is.
so even though we're doing this over video,
Yeah,
and
you're in
and
my
all,
field now.
yeah,
Everyone's in my field as this happens, right?
right.
And the way they explain it to me is that we'll use you for an example, right? Let's say you were going to have a session. Your team has
Mhm.
contracted with whomever needs to provide you those codes. Maybe it's ET activations, maybe it's divinity activations, whatever these things are, right?
Mhm.
And that contract that your team's created finds their way to me, and it comes down with what Miss Sheila Seppi calls the hollow bone. So it comes down and is delivered. It comes out the throat chakra. And they explained to me the other night that everything that comes through me is from up there through
Mhm.
the hollow bone, and I get nothing out of it. And they were smiling when they said that. And I'm like, it's not really right. I don't want to wear these glasses, little stuff like that. And they're like, no, that's just not how it works. They said, if they were to provide me healing codes as that came down, it would taint the delivery.
Oh, interesting.
I would
Okay.
be intercepting and modifying or pulling from the transmission. So the hollow bone theory is Ken doesn't get anything. I still need to go to healer.
Okay.
Sort
Got
of.
it. Sort of. Okay.
So let me explain that. The team, I call it the team, has introduced me to something called the Library of Creation. So the Library of Creation sits in the same field as the Akashic Records in that middle astral layer. And this is a library of everything that has ever occurred, every thought, every action through the universe is, and they say plural because they're always with me, right? And then it's also a place of creation,
Hmm.
which means that they have shown me how to, and I use the KISS principle, keep it simple, silly, right? They
Yeah.
have shown me how to bring people into the library and take them into these rooms. For example, there is a room called the Room of Your Childhood Memories.
Hmm.
And in this room, it's just a white room with a nice open window and an empty cardboard box.
Mhm.
When you're in that room, you're asking the library to show you something. Show me the objects associated with the childhood trauma that keeps me from having a relationship, as an example. And they'll start showing you objects in the room that make no sense.
Okay.
The reason they do that is they don't want you to relive the memory. They don't want you to have the stress over, can I remember or not? So the objects show up. It is from your subconscious and from your team. And by giving the object gratitude and forgiveness, you're not forgiving the thing that happened or the person or anything like that. It's just you're forgiving yourself for holding it.
Yeah.
The object will change shape. They pop into the cardboard box and they float it away. It's that simple. You can go into the the viewing room of your past lives. And it's like a theater. You sit down, and instead of having one screen, you have a bunch of TVs. Show me the past lives that are responsible for the pain in my shoulder.
Hmm.
Right? Or show me the past life that I have the fear of drowning. And the TVs will pop on as I tell them, the library will do exactly what you ask. And I'm like, show them to me blurred and out of focus. My
Okay.
team is really, the message they have is we're done with the stories.
Yeah.
We're done with the stories. If somebody wants to see their past life, they can. And in fact, you can go into the TV screens and observe what's happening. But
Mhm.
you will then ask the room, as you see in this, please heal and release those past lives, and they'll start popping off. And then you'll start feeling the shift in the body as they're doing this. So there's a bunch of rooms for that, but it's keep it simple, silly. The idea of having to go through these long things doesn't have to apply. And the rooms allow people to show up in a way that best serves them.
Okay, very interesting. So I can think of a couple people in my life that I might send them to you because, yeah, because it's something I don't want because I'm too close to the
Right.
situation. Yeah.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
okay. Well, so what, when people come to you to work with you,
Mhm.
what are some of their situations? I mean, you mentioned a couple, but like, yeah, what kind of clients do you attract? Who wants to work with you?
It's the ones who want the journey, right? I do get the ones that just show up for the one and done, right? Heal my shoulder, whatever the case, and they'll get the relief. But the reality is I am here to create a spark in somebody anyways. So the idea of somebody having their own personal miracle, like, oh
Mhm.
wow, how did that just happen? Right? I had a family of 4 show up, and listen, if you're spending 30 minutes with me, we're talking at the end. So family of 4 shows up, the lady sits down and she's like, I don't remember exactly what it was, but she's like, I've got a lower back issue and a knee issue surgery. And she's done like 8 minutes later. She's got full range of motion again. So she's like, oh, and she calls her daughter over. I'm like, oh, we have more here because they're all behind the screen, right? She
Okay.
sits down and she had trauma in her back and trauma in her ankles from a car accident. And she's done a few minutes after that. Then the
Hmm.
son sits down and they're in their 30s, right? I work on him. And then the dad sits down. The whole thing was 20 minutes. And they're having range of motion. Now they still show up because now that they've had their spark, their miracle, they want to begin doing more. And my team is really, really adamant about, listen, have your experience. Get that bug in you, right? Get that desire and go find that local person that you resonate with
Hmm.
who can give you more of that intimate relationship on following these things, because I talk really fast and the team will come in really, really fast. The light language is intense. There are thousands of light languages that can flow through me. It's just phenomenal and it happens so fast. So my average client is pretty much anyone. And ironically, I find that the people who haven't done the journey,
Hmm.
right, and they're just starting, they're the ones that have that pop that, oh my gosh, it's there and it's not there. And the way I'm understanding it is it's because their energy fields are they're not aligned. And as this energy comes in, it really kind of shocks the system. So they're having a ooh and ah moment as all this pain. But I do find that as soon as you begin your journey, it gets a little more difficult.
Okay.
All those things that you didn't think were ever, I'm going to use the term broken in you or you needed to heal in you, start showing up.
Hmm.
You become aware of your thoughts. You become aware of, why am I angry at that driver? What does that mean? I mean, where's that coming from? And again, those questions are boundless. They just keep going and going. So when you begin your journey, there are a lot of things that show up. So those ones that are on their journey, their energy fields are already aligned. So when I show up to remove and do the work for them, it's more of a softer approach.
Okay.
What happens to those folks, though, there's a 3-day delay usually. And this is where they find themselves very sad and empty. So
Hmm.
as I reach into the heart, and I literally reach into the heart, and I'm talking to the heart, and they're pulling the trauma out, they're like, where did that go? Where's that trauma, the anger, the thing that's always there? And they're lost because they don't quite make the connection that energy interference, which is what I call it, is no longer present. So they go through these moments. And then there's the insomnia, right? And then there's the sleeping so much. And it's for 3 days, they go through these shifts as all of this energy in the body just starts shifting. So, healing isn't always pleasant.
No, it's not. But it is vital to us being able to raise our frequency to those higher vibrational levels.
It
And
is. And
yeah.
one of the things the team does. So I had a podcast we talked briefly about. It was called Accelerating Ascension, right? The team is to literally accelerate the ascension of humanity.
Hmm.
I'm not chosen. I show up at this time in the stage of evolution of different
Yeah.
species, and this is my job. And I'm here to help people remove the trauma so their frequency rises to their 5D. As you do the work, you'll naturally come up. And then when you get those activations, from your ET family or the divinity realm, wherever you play at,
Mm-hmm.
you have those massive shifts in your life, and everything changes outside. It's amazing.
It does. I actually just wrote a book about that called Awakening to Your Multidimensional Self.
Yeah, we're going to be great friends. Yeah.
Yes, I love it. Well, so before the show, I had asked you if you would be able or willing or want to do any kind of healing, and you did agree. So
Yeah.
I would love for all of us to receive whatever you have to share right now.
Absolutely. And thank you for the opportunity. So this was super easy. Unless you're driving, I just want you to close your eyes. And we're going to take you into a dark room, just a black room. And this is soft and full of love. It's just we like to keep it simple. And in this room, I just want you to begin to notice the stars, the planets, the universe showing up, and allow whatever to show up for you. And here we go. Sharia karia notria naria darga nishkadoria nokaria machia nidarati sharator gonoretoria niretar or chocodoria kunidaretari nishkadini diretoria mokoria koria kari shikadi noretoria. The Tadiachkadaka narratic shkadarato in the Rataticonota shkadapa shkaratari shikadonia maratara shkodoriano di nishkidi karati nita shkodoria makarakari shkudia. Papa Yokonia dark in Hishkudori and the Arco to Chikia Arco to the Archki and the Dedicoretia. Kokishki the Kabaki Nicarako Nishka. Shareta rotoria Mario Tireta Sherotoriani Moratoria Care Chicanina Rataro Turishiki Kudu Ratarini Mapokoria na o do Shikini that Yantara no the Andar Horato Shikini and Arco no Ada di Shirata in the studio. Mapoko di Kuniabari can Arco no Ganishkadar Adariko Nidrichkudur Nidrishkar Arshudu in Karishkudamakaya Ashakatar Tori and Amabishko. Larasho toria kareta ni ati ani sietaro torisha koria machieto. Shariaro torio toria caria. Norio toria shiarataro toria ri. Coreshario toria nacaria mopriataria. Norio shiri nier lariera toria nira torishkata. Cratare and the retin the retaro toria nishira. Surloria lieratare nishini niatoria mario corio coria caria. Areshkadientaria noro todo atakapa ishkidukni inishikidia. Arata Kurukunuki, Netari Nutrium, identifying the identification of the Barretto Irish Kuria. But could not get to Capra, the Kurtush, the Editikuno, to a pocket of Shiki, the Edit. Chakadoric, Tishkaturi, and the Shiataro Torio, Moriori Shiata, Korioko, Kanya Shiata, Komokochtia. So as you're ready, you can come out of that. Wiggle the fingers and toes.
Well, I
Right?
felt, yeah,
It's a little different.
it is, but
This is my
so
everyday.
I could feel the different energies moving through my body, and even like some pain, but I feel like it's pain that was being released.
Yeah, yeah. And
So there,
I notice it bounces around too.
yeah,
Yeah.
but there was a lot here and here, like this part of me that got release.
And for me, I don't know what they're doing on anyone.
Yeah,
And the way they explain it is no one gets the same thing.
right.
You're sitting there and you've got someone next to you, and I'm delivering for both of you. You will get absolutely separate things. There's nothing canned or pre-created.
Mm-hmm.
When we show up for some of these meditations, and I'll pick on 8-8 for a moment, you're going to the Lion's Gate and you're going to get that particular thing, right? That is
Right.
not how this works. And on the replays, it doesn't matter the replays and how long it is. You're still getting exactly what was waiting for you.
Beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful. Okay. Well, so when you're working with your one-on-one clients, so I guess I want to walk through. You explained the family situation, which was interesting. And so you're just having the conversation with them. You did talk about physical pain. are there clients like with some more of the mental disorders that
Yeah.
you're able to work
Yeah.
with?
So I will actually see the soul fragments, right?
Okay.
Halfway out of the body, right? And they're there because they're holding trauma, right? So I'm able to see that, remove that, and merge them back in. I'm also able to see what I call the yuckies. It's just a very general fun term because I'm a
Yeah.
fun guy, right? I don't like to label things that we would normally label in a polarity way, right?
Right.
So I can see those and I can remove those contracts, which actually have a lot to do with what's happening in our psyche, all right?
Mm,
The anxiety that people feel just randomly, they don't know why they're having anxiety. I can almost always find a soul fragment that's hanging outside of the body. And once it's merged back in, they start feeling whole again, right?
yeah.
So there are places, again, to talk about the library, there is a room of your triggers. You know, when you see something, you're like, oh man, that person walks into the room or the kid walks into the room, you're like, oh, you're triggering me. There's a place you can go to remove those. There's a place you can go to remove the programming, which is once I'm triggered, I have the behavior of doing something, right? And maybe you're shutting down, or maybe you have these patterns. You can see those. And again, it's designed so you don't need to know what the programming is, right?
Okay. Right.
There's also a room of your self-limiting beliefs. Show me the self-limiting belief as an object on the altar that prevents me from applying for that job, whatever these are, right? Or prevents me from believing I can have abundance. Those show up and they start removing, right? They start just falling off. And I'm able to do that in an automatic way. So I look at myself as having a lot of tools in my tool belt. Right?
Mm-hmm.
And over the past 7 years, every 3 or 4 weeks, they would put a batch of people in front of me, which is really, I don't know how they do this, but a batch of people with the same problems randomly.
Yeah.
Right. Like it took me, almost 3 weeks to figure out how to heal the shoulder. And the first time it would take me an hour. And by the time I'm done, it takes me 10 or 15 minutes. That was back then, but they continue to put groups of people. And the
Mm-hmm.
way they explained it is that I'm able to sense like a fingerprint,
Mm-hmm.
the fingerprint of the energy interference. Right. So you got a shoulder pod, and there's an energy fingerprint. When they put this in there, I learn these fingerprints. And at the same time, I have the healing codes, which if you can think of two waves of equal amplitude hitting each other, they cancel each other out.
Right.
This is all they're doing. They're removing or canceling the energy interference out, which results in the body repairing itself. And the
Beautiful.
mind and the
Yeah.
soul. I'm able to see the blockages that keep us from having those conversations, right? The
Yeah.
EQ implants, that I'm sure you've had conversations on those, right? And everything I'm doing is done in light language when I'm communicating with, your friend in the back there,
Mm-hmm.
to find out why he has a contract. Everything's done like that. But yeah, everything shows up and everyone's very, very gentle. Even the yuckies don't give me a hard time because I'm not hurting them. I don't do
Mm-hmm.
any harm. I simply say the contract's done and I move them along. There's other people that take more drastic approaches, but I
Yeah,
don't harm anything.
there are. Well, I
Yeah.
love how you've explained all of that. Okay, so besides radically changing your life, like you've had a major identity transformation,
Yeah.
leading your cybersecurity career, businesses, marriage, all of that.
Mhm.
And so tell me about your life now, living as this, integrated.
It's strange. It's,
Okay.
I'm me still. And again, I don't listen to any spiritual stuff. I am, don't follow me for spiritual practices. I'm not that guy, right?
Yeah.
I don't have drama and I don't have trauma that shows up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's weird. And I've been questioning this lately a lot, and I have my answers. And I call my friends for the answers too.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, I don't understand why I don't do manifestation techniques or abundance techniques. Why I do it for people. I just did a 3-week class to handle all the abundance, but I don't actually do this stuff. And my life's on autopilot at this point. Because of the team that I have, they are running everything in my life. And this isn't a bad thing. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So my team is full of some very high vibrational divine beings. And I don't like to use names and things like that because all of a sudden now you start splitting the audience. What do you mean? Prove it. So I try not to get into that. But I see what's coming.
Mm-hmm.
I always see what's coming. Whether I understand it or not is a whole nother question.
Okay.
Right. Like, I'm like, listen, I had a great month of January, but how are we doing in February, for revenue, right? It's still a business. And they're like, you're going to go down. I'm like, don't worry, March is going to be great. And so, right. And I'll tell you a fun story about being on autopilot real quick.
Okay.
So
Yes.
I didn't have a vehicle for 12 months, right?
Okay.
Work gets done. And now it's time for me to get a vehicle. And my team says, we want you to show up sophisticated, but ready for the outdoors, which is why I'm
Okay.
in Colorado. I'm like,
Okay.
oh, okay. So I find the vehicle that I want, and it's 2 years old. Perfect. No depreciation. Depreciation's done, right? And the price of all of this. And it's the only one they had in Florida with the V8 because I'm that guy. I like the V8s. I go to the dealership. I look at it. I drive it. I'm like, absolutely. Do you guys want a deposit? I said, I'm not ready for 6 more days. They said, well, don't do the deposit then because we're not going to hold it that long. I said, okay. So 6 days later, and I'm in touch with the sales lady, and I call her up the morning and says, hey, I'm 2 hours away. Is it still there? She's like, yeah, come get it. 10 minutes from the dealership, I get a text message from her. We just sold it.
Jeez.
It'd been on the lot for
Yeah.
45 days, right?
Okay.
Now, I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to continue the journey. I have a choice here. I can get and be upset, or I can look at this as, okay, what shifted and why did this happen? So I get to the dealership, and I had all my financing in place, right? Everything was done. And they're like, no, your financing is not going to work either, because it was above the amount that I had already requested. So I'm like, I want a V8. I want a used one. We don't have any. We're going to take you to the back lot. You know what happens in the back lot, right? So they show me the new one, the 2025. And they're like, nope, it's not a V8. And I walk over to the sticker. It's a V8. I open it up, and it has a solid white interior, right? Just absolutely gorgeous. And it's gray. I mean, I think every car nowadays is gray, right? But
Well, in Hawaii, they're either gray or white.
yeah. So the color is called Carpathian Gray, which I didn't know anything about this. So the price was, I would never have looked at this vehicle. Never. I didn't want the depreciation. I didn't want that amount, so on and so forth. But you know what? I pulled the trigger that day. I have found out, and I suspected my team was behind this.
Yeah.
Well, Carpathian, the color, stands for the Rocky Mountains.
Oh.
Which is where I'm at now. And I had a session done on me. We have those friends. And I said, listen, did my team pick this out? They said, absolutely. They picked the whole thing out for you, right? And I'm so in love with it. Absolutely in love with it. So my life really is being taken care of. And it's a little awkward. And it's a little unsettling sometimes, because I'm like, I'd love to have, a relationship. That would be wonderful. But it's only going to show up when it's time.
Yeah.
And when it's in alignment with the mission. So there's some sacrifices, but the reality is I love it. I really, really love it. And I live and breathe this. All my time is spent just giving. And there's nothing more. It's just nothing more that tickles me more.
Beautiful. Well, I would I'm very honored that you're here with me today. And I'm glad Sheila Seppi is the one who introduced us. And
amazing.
Yeah. And any final words of wisdom for the audience?
Yeah, they channeled something the other day for me that I'll share with you. They said, insistence is resistance. And this was for me. And through my journey, I've insisted that they talk to me. I've insisted that they show up like this. I've insisted and I've insisted. And they said, every time that you insist on the outcome, right, you are creating resistance for the universe to deliver it. So when you stop insisting, then the floodgates open. So as I move through these shifts that are happening today, apparently, right, they're like, get ready, because we need you to stop resisting this next change. And of course, I know it's coming, but I don't talk about things until they show up. I'm a big believer in that.
Yeah.
So that was the message. And, it's pretty profound, because not all my clients, but most of my clients are expecting and insisting that the healing happens this way. They want that boom and done. And I'm going to tell you, no. My team explained that there are levels and levels and levels. And just because they want the shoulder level, the ancestor may need to be healed differently, and it may take a while, and a timing, and so on and so forth. So that just stop insisting. Just show up and get ready to receive. That's the message.
Beautiful. I've received similar messages from my team too.
Yeah. And I can't tell. I mean, my team is beautiful. Like, they've never yelled at me. I won't say the same for me to them. And I wake up the next day, I'm like, I'm really sorry about that. They're like, no, we really understand. So because they're part of the body, they know every thought. I mean, I think they do anyways, no matter where they're in the body, but every emotion, every thought, everything I'm going through, they have, a front row seat with popcorn. Like, they
Right.
know this. And it's beautiful to know that, we really are accepted. No matter how we feel and what we do, we are loved unconditionally, regardless. And it's incredible. It's like having that friend that just doesn't matter what bad day you have.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, okay. So for those of you watching or listening, check out Ken's website, kenlloydofficial.com. And I'll have that in the show notes as well. And Ken, I look forward to seeing what your evolution is.
Yeah, just stay tuned. Some
Yes.
incredible things coming. And again, when it shows up, it shows up. But yeah, I suspect that we'll hear from those ones in me through some channeling, some different type of channeling. So we're gonna see, right? I'll
Okay.
let you know when it happens, because they're gonna let me know when it's done. So,
Right.
well, thank you so much for allowing me on your show.
Yeah, absolutely. And for those of you watching or listening, as always, thank you for being here with us. And I will see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.